When it comes to me and music creation, I lack experience, and then some. Compare just 40,000 seconds, about a half a day, to that of 6 million, about 2 months, with programming, and 21 million, about 8 months, with artwork. As you can tell, there's no comparison. There's such a huge difference in that, well, I needed contributions, and thus I've gotten quite a few, and I thank you all for doing that. So you might be wondering, what do I do behind the scenes to process the contributions? Well, the process is actually pretty simple, and it starts with one obvious thing that I have to do before anything else starts. Download it. Can't process it if I don't have it. So, after being downloaded, the next thing I do, of course, is begin processing it. And I'll walk you through the entire process. First thing, I need Audacity. But I'm dealing with MIDI files, and Audacity does not work with MIDI. In a way, it does, but not directly. So, how does that work? Well, obviously, open Audacity. Next, go to the project rate and set it to the one I want. And I've been getting a lot of these at 44.1, which is pretty much the CD standard. The next thing I do is I set this to MIDI Synth. I can't select it though. Why? My voice will cut out, because I can only take one input source, which is really annoying. So, let's say I just hit it on MIDI Synth, so I hit record. Okay, so otherwise I've got silence here is what it would be. And, well, I go to the file that I want to go, and thank you MarioMaster for this masterpiece. And of course I just play this song all the way through until I get the full result, and from there, that's otherwise it. After recording the song, it's now time to process it. However, there is one thing that I love doing with pretty much every song I get. What is it? Well, what do I do with the music I listen to when I'm doing other things on my computer? I change the speed. Doing that is actually very easy. However, for 44.1 for the sample rate, it's not mathematically friendly. It does take some effort. However, true speed sample rate times the speed I want, which is 70% true speed, equals that number. Copy that. I'm going to stretch this out so I get pretty much the whole waveform full screen. Go to set rate, other, and I paste that number in. And there you have it. However, at the very beginning, there's that silence I was telling you about. Silence is noted by this flat line. Of course, the flat line can be up here or it can be down there, but it's almost always right on 0. That's usually the case. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of this silence. To do that, I just simply zoom in until I see the little tick marks like this. Those mark individual samples. There are, in this case, almost 31,000 of these played every second. That's a lot, wouldn't you think about it? So, I find the area where the waveform actually starts, and I start the selection from there. This part is the easiest part in the whole thing, along with actually recording the particular thing. So, go all the way to the left, and delete. And there you have it. Okay, that's 70% true speed. Same thing here, except true speed. That's pretty much basically that whole area, but this one took a lot longer because speed. It's changed. But at least it gives you the idea anyway. And I've done that part, but what about this? You'd think that I'd probably just go in here and just select and delete from there. However, whenever I ask for a contribution, I ask for 3 things. 1, if there's an intro, include it. 2 full loops of the song. 3, an extra few measures at the very end, for the start of the 3rd loop, for that of the next loop. That way, that last part is so I can actually get seamless looping. And thus, I just need to find the point, which is somewhere in this area here. So I'm going to make a selection, and otherwise figure out where it is. Okay, so is it there? That sounds close. So I'm going to get a little bit more, and I'm just going to extend on it. Yep, that was a little much. Okay. So, zoom in, keep zooming in. Okay, and then let's see. Yeah, this spot here looks familiar from my previous edit. Well, I'll get to that a little bit later. But one thing I want you to note here. Yeah, it looks like a jagged line. There's really nothing special here at all. Well, there's actually some significance to this. But what is with the jagged line? Well, if you look closely here, there's actually a strange transition point, if you will. Notice how here you got a little spike there, and you got a little tiny spike there, and you got one there. Little tiny ones. Those represent high-pitched sounds. What about the midtones? Something like this would be one complete midtone, in a sense. What about the bass? That goes over a long span. And I think I see like this right here would be a fairly considerable range. Let's see, that'd be 200 hertz from what I can tell here. That's bass, in a sense. But that's basically what it all is. But notice here how the high-pitched sound here is very little, and over here there's a huge spikes here. Here it's really short, and here it's really tall. The higher this is, the greater the amplitude. The vertical is the amplitude. The left and right is the time. That's basically all a waveform really is. So what I need to do is I need to find the point where it transitions from this to being really, really sharp. And that point kind of seems to be around here. So I zoom in until I see that curves in here, and it looks like right in there pretty much. So I scroll forward a little bit to the right and find the point on here where it's closest to the 0 point. Why 0? It's the center. In this case, it's right here. So I include that point and I delete everything else after it. This here, for example, that's only 4 samples, and of course at the 44.1 that'd be a 10,000 hertz sound, which is pretty high treble. So, delete all that. And now I just do a little test to make sure it's right. Yep, seems fine. So, that's intro and 2 loops. Time to save. However, there's one problem. If I save it right now, it's otherwise going to be stretched in the wrong way. What you're going to hear is actually going to be the speed, not true speed. So, I have to set this so that it matches the project rate. That way there's no conversion and it's far faster. Save and pretty much go from there. However, this is where I was getting at. I had an update to this because there was one part that just kind of didn't fit in, and MarioMaster, the one that nicely contributed the song, otherwise made the fix. And so, V2, version 2, is the fixed version. Intro and 2 loops because, well, it's got the intro and it's got 2 loops. And there's that. But what about the loopable version? I'm going to Z it to get the slower speed back. What's so important about the slower speed? It's much easier to find things. It's somewhere in here. See, that plays too much. There's a little bit extra there, and of course if you're a little off on it, there's that little odd tick in there. And thus, that's where the transition significance comes in. So I zoom in pretty much the same way, and I get the 0 point. In this case, it's kind of in the middle. And if I remember, let's see, it would be this one here that I would use, because I had something that was a little above it, so I wanted as good as I can possibly get, close to a sine curve as possible. So, delete everything from there to the left. Why all this? This is how you get the loopable version. Because I've already chopped it off over here, so now I just need to find that same point from there, delete, and there you have it. And that's otherwise it. Of course, I want to make sure it transitions properly, and thus there's a way to do that. Select all, copy, move to the end, paste. Okay. The next thing I do is I zoom in until the scroll bar gets quite narrow, which is about this, which is as soon as it gets to that, and that's usually the point I usually go to, because otherwise it's one pixel scrolls a huge amount and it gets rather touchy. So zoom in, click, zoom in, jump, miss. And I just keep doing this until I see those samples, the tick marks, and in this case I do. Notice how the smooth transition comes in? That's what I was after, making that slight little adjustment. And that's basically all there is to it. And of course, if you want to hear the actual transition as it is, I'm going to select some of this and go from there. You can't even tell a difference. That is how convenient that is. But I don't want this extra duplicate loop. Z that. Control Z. Gotta love it. So I'm now done with the loopable version, so all I gotta do is set rate and put it back at the project's rate, and I save this as well. Hopping through Cavern Forest, make the loopable version this time, and otherwise put V2 on there. What's with this MarioMaster? That's the contributor, at least based on the YouTube name that I'm most familiar with. And V2 because it's version 2, loopable because it's the loopable version, and the name of the song is Hopping Through Cavern Forest. And that otherwise concludes the entire process. So, and that otherwise concludes the video. This video was created by Ulillillia. Thank you for watching. This song was contributed to me by MarioMaster. Thank you for contributing.